righty, 10:03 on the fan. What's going on, everybody? This is the Tiki and Tierney Show. You know, I'll tell you, I'm driving in yesterday, my first day off of the year, first day off of 2023. I took a personal day so I could do the St. John's game, Big East tournament. Driving in, Route 46, coming into the Lincoln Tunnel, slowly navigating traffic, right? And I wanted to jump out of my car. And I wanted to actually try to strangle somebody. And you know who that was? You know who that was?
Who?
You.
Why?
I go away for one day, and the show turns into anarchy. Can you reset?
I'm just preaching truth, man.
Okay.
Preaching truth.
Can you reset this
the truth
ridiculous
of the matter,
Aaron Rodgers opinion?
The truth
please?
of the matter for Aaron Rodgers is that at this point, no other team wants Aaron Rodgers, including the Green Bay Packers, than the New York Jets. So we've been saying this for a while, kind of off the cuff, flippantly. It's going to be the Jets or Aaron Rodgers is going to retire. But the reality is Aaron Rodgers, assuming he wants to keep playing, and I think he does want to keep playing. He's got 100 million reasons why, and a bunch of things to prove. Still, I believe. But Aaron Rodgers wants to keep playing. If he wants to, and I think he does, the only place that he can go is the New York Jets. And in that regard, the Jets have so much more leverage than I think we ever thought about. Because Aaron Rodgers is not going to play anywhere else other than in Florham Park for the New York Jets. And if that's said, that makes Aaron Rodgers the desperate one, not the Jets, who we've been positioning as the desperate team to get a quarterback because they're a competent quarterback away. But instead of going to get a competent quarterback, and they have options, they go and get the best quarterback that's available, who's a Hall of Famer and, could be good or could be, disruptive. I think it's really interesting how, in reality, this whole situation is kind of flipped from how we've positioned it for the last month or so. No, it's flipped how you've positioned it for the last month or so. Don't bring me into your side of the pool. All right, now listen. All right, so your premise is that Aaron Rodgers is desperate, like he needs the Jets more than the Jets need him. All right. If he wants to keep playing.
Gotcha.
Because nobody else wants him.
Okay. So if the Jets don't win this year, Douglas is probably gone. Mm-hmm. Salah's absolutely gone. So right away, in terms of the desperation meter, I completely fundamentally disagree. Number one. Number two, if the whole premise is that nobody else wants Rodgers, therefore he's the one more desperate for the Jets, what about Lamar? You've literally got teams tweeting, we're not going after Lamar.
Yeah, but I think
who wants Lamar Jackson?
But I explained that in depth.
Who wants Lamar?
I think
you can explain it all you want. Who wants Lamar?
I think
the Ravens don't even want him.
I think a lot of teams want Lamar. Who? So you remember last week?
Wait, who wants Lamar?
Hold on. Remember last week we were talking about the whole collusion thing, and I remember saying, I think I said this on air. If I didn't, I definitely said it to you off air. I don't understand what they're talking about collusion. Because there's nobody colluding against Lamar Jackson. There's nobody trying to blackball Lamar Jackson. But then when you start to really dig into it, what they're colluding against is the idea of a fully guaranteed contract. We know how this all happened with the precedent with Deshaun Watson because he had a full no trade. The only way he was leaving Houston because he had a no trade was if he got a deal from some chumps, and that was the Browns, to give him a fully guaranteed deal, except for the $1 million that, was his base salary last season. And so Lamar Jackson now wants a fully guaranteed Deshaun Watson type deal. What they're colluding against is making that the precedent. So immediately when he gets franchise tag, non-exclusive franchise tag, all of these teams, Atlanta, the Commanders, the Carolina Panthers, Miami, all of them basically put out through different channels, all these insiders reporting, that nobody wants Lamar, nobody wants Lamar, nobody wants Lamar, nobody wants Lamar. That's not because they don't want Lamar Jackson, who's a 26-year-old former MVP and a dynamic player. It's because they don't want to guarantee his contract fully. So they're pushing back on Lamar, one, because he doesn't have an agent, so there's nobody to tell Lamar's side of the story.
Yeah.
And so he kind of gets stuck. That's why Lamar
That's his own fault. Get an agent. Be normal.
BT 100%.
Be conventional. Probably a better way to put it.
I get why he doesn't want to give away, I don't know,
3%, 2.5%. I get it. I get it.
And on a $200+ million guaranteed contract, it's a lot of money.
I hear you. It is a lot of money. So it's not my money. It's fair, but still.
But there's a reason why this isn't working for Lamar.
I got that.
And that's why Lamar is kind of just sitting in limbo.
Understood, but still nobody wants him. Independent of the reason, and I'm with you. I do believe that there's a strong whiff of collusion here.
Yeah.
The other thing, though, about Rodgers, which I think is, to be fair, impossible to prove, but unfair to state as fact, is that nobody but the Gents want Aaron Rodgers. Here's the thing. You know, especially now, it's all about getting ahead of stories and trying to control the narrative, right? And I've always believed, and this is what's always emboldened my belief, one of the few people who's been unwavering that Rodgers will be here from early February till now, never once did I waver, is that I always thought the Jets had some intimation. He likes what they're doing. Obviously, the Hackett hire buoys that thought, and so on and so forth. I think it's going to happen, though it's a very complex financial arrangement. It's going to take a little time. The comp is complex. I've got no doubt he's going to be a Jet, whatever. But I also think that while the Jets had a sense of him liking them, I also think other teams that may have been interested in him got some sort of sense from him or whatever that he's not interested in them. So, like, when we say,
but how do you know that?
Well, how do you know what you say? I don't.
I'm speculating because I have heard nothing about any team other than the Jets.
Well, obviously, but I'm telling you why I think that might be the case. Because if you're the Raiders. Now, I know their finances are different. The guaranteed part of the signing bonus, the contract, it's got to go in escrow. You know, Mark Davis is not Woody Johnson or some of these other multi-billionaires that have all this money from other companies. I get that. This is a source of business that he got from his dad. But if Mark Davis was told indirectly somehow, he has no interest coming to Vegas, why would the Vegas Raiders put out anything to the contrary to make themselves look like idiots? They're going to look like fools if they're like, oh, yeah, hey, we might bet Aaron Rodgers. We find him very intriguing. We're a quarterback away.
Because it's Aaron Rodgers.
But if he doesn't want you don't do that.
Yeah, but you also can't talk about Aaron Rodgers because he's under contract from the Green Bay Packers. Now, here's the thing.
But you talk indirectly. You know that.
Here's the thing.
You know that, though, indirectly.
I understand this,
okay.
but the
We're not in the quarterback
one team
market,
that we've only heard from that is interested in the Aaron Rodgers situation is the New York Jets. Now, the Packers don't want Aaron Rodgers. We know that for fact. They're ready to move on to Jordan Love, and they can trade Aaron Rodgers to whoever they want. I needed to look at this, and I just found it. He does not have a no-trade clause. So if they want to move off from him and they do negotiations, whether these teams hear about it or not, or we hear about it or not, with some other team, they could do that, the Green Bay Packers. They're not, because I don't think teams are calling for Aaron Rodgers. He's a very complicated individual. You know this from all of the personal stuff.
And
I don't care about that. It has nothing to do with.
Well, then why you bring it up if you don't care?
Because
it's such an overstated. It's not fair to the guy.
Because it becomes a distraction. It becomes a distraction.
To who?
It becomes a distraction to him. To him.
I think he processes it very well. I don't think it bothers him at all.
Okay.
He gets up, he does his thing, he goes on McAfee, he lives his life.
It's just an opinion. It is what it is.
Okay.
There's a lot going on with Aaron Rodgers. There's a lot going on with his contract, and he's 39 years old. He's going to be 40 before this season is over. So if you're a team like the Raiders who are looking for a longer-term solution, Aaron Rodgers isn't interesting to you. Carolina Panthers, they got to restart with Frank Reich. He's probably not interesting to you. The Commanders, he's not. I mean, none of these teams.
Commanders roster is pretty interesting. Commanders actually should be a fit,
but they're not
because he doesn't want to go there.
I don't know where he wants to go.
He wants to come here. You know that
he wants to come here because it's the only place that wants him back.
We fundamentally disagree. We can go in circles all day. I hear you. I would say this though. It is a short list. I'm certainly going to grant you that, but it's a short list based on the circumstances. Number one, to get Rodgers, okay, you have to have an owner that's willing to spend a monstrous amount of money.
Yes.
Woody Johnson's on record. He's doing that. Check. Number two, you have to have a roster that is desirable or viewed as desirable by Rodgers. Check. Everybody with a pulse knows the Jets roster's coming. And number three, you've got to have a pressing need at quarterback. And they have as much of a pressing need as anybody. So I think it's largely derived from the circumstances, not that they don't want Rodgers or they're afraid of Rodgers or the baggage or the McAfee stuff or the weirdness or the aloofness or however else anybody wants to frame it. To pursue Aaron Rodgers, you've got to have those three things. A willing owner with money, a big-time roster ready to win, and a quarterback with a big hole. And the Jets have all three, which is why they're at the front of the line. Now, there's other teams that, if you can identify, and I will truly lay out, I don't think there is one, but you might know more than me. Identify a team with those three things. An owner who's going to give you $90 million on the spot, a roster that everybody says, man, that roster's good. But also the only a good roster without the most important position in football. Give me one team that fits that criteria. That's why nobody's knocking down his door.
You realize you're making my point. So it doesn't matter.
No, but you're using the word desperate. I'm using the word circumstances.
If Aaron, I mean, you're parsing words.
No, I'm not.
If Aaron Rodgers wants to play football, there's one team to your criteria that meets all of them, and that's the New York Jets. So if he, for whatever reason, hates the New York market and doesn't want to be here, he's got to retire because nobody else wants him, including the Green Bay Packers. That's fact, right? And we're seeing it because we're not hearing any other conversation other than the New York Jets. This goes back 3 weeks when they got permission to have trade conversations with the Green Bay Packers. Nobody else has even been remotely mentioned as having trade conversations with the Green Bay Packers. So if Aaron Rodgers wants to keep playing, I'm just stating something very simple.
Go ahead.
If Aaron Rodgers wants to keep playing, there's one team that can happen with, and that is the New York Jets, period. If he says, I want to keep playing, and the Jets are like, yeah, it's just not the right fit for us, Aaron Rodgers got to retire.
No, he doesn't.
Period.
You're telling me that he couldn't agree more. So Aaron Rodgers is going to be on the side of Route 3 with his thumb out trying to hitchhike to a team. If the Jets suddenly pivoted and said pivot time, and we're going after Lamar, or we're doing this, or we're doing that, or we're rehabbing Zach, or we're taking Jimmy.
By the way, they should be going after Lamar.
I disagree with that as well. You really, truly think that he would be jobless? I know that, we're doing radio, but you do really believe that?
Yes.
No way that you can believe that.
I do believe that.
You're nuts.
I do believe that.
All right.
Nobody else is beating down the Packers' door.
877-337-6666. Tiki and Tierney on the Fan inside of our Town Fair Tire studio. Friends at Town Fair remind you that you always get the guarantee lowest price on name brand tires from Connecticut to Maine. Nobody beats Town Fair Tire. Nobody. One more question for you, because I'll give you this, Teague. In these long, ongoing, at times repetitive conversations that we've had about Rodgers, and before that, Daniel Jones, months, we've talked about them, months, right? We have taken a lot of things that both of us, not just you, I've done this as well. Everybody's done this on the Fan, and all listeners have done this as well, and callers. Taken things that are not necessarily factual, but they are presented as facts. Fair statement?
Yes.
Okay.
Of course.
Okay.
That's what we do.
Well, yeah, I got you.
It's our job.
A lot of extrapolation with this one, though, in particular, okay? So if that's the case, and it clearly is, it's human nature, I'm going to call you on something you just said. You just said everybody knows that the Packers don't want Aaron Rodgers. Okay, now you present something that we don't truly know as factual. Now let me volley this to you. If Aaron Rodgers woke up today and said, you know what, I've really thought about this, and he actually communicated this clearly, not like in code or whatever, like for everybody to interpret. He said this with McAfee on Twitter, on ESPN, with us, whatever. If he said, man, the Jets roster's really good. I respect it, but I met their contingent. I got a great feel for those guys. I have respect for Woody, and I have respect for blah, 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 the whole song and dance. But then he said, I'm a Packer, and I promise, I am all in. I am reinvigorated, and the first day of OTA, I will be there setting the example, lifting the young receivers, and we're trying to bring another championship back to Lambeau. Are you telling me that the Packers would not let him play for them?
No, of course they would.
Then you're wrong.
Of course
then
they
you
would.
Can't say the Packers don't want him. But they don't want him based on the circumstances.
No, okay.
Which he's creating because he wants to come here.
You're parsing words. It is what it is.
I'm not, though.
The Green Bay Packers would love to play Jordan Love, and the Aaron Rodgers situation is theirs because they signed him to a $150 million extension last year.
They'd love to see Jordan
and they're
Love.
In cap hell. They're in utter cap hell.
They'd also rather him see win MVP number 5 in his uniform. I mean, I think that they prefer that over Jordan Love. Mike is in Brooklyn. What's happened to Mike?
Hey,
Mikey.
fellas. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure, man.
Just wanted to thank Tierney for coming back today. All due respect to Tiki, but I think your opinions on Aaron Rodgers were a little strong yesterday.
That's the
and
point.
I, too, wanted to get out of my car
That's
and
the point.
strangle somebody.
That's the point.
What do you say about his
But,
Oh, good. Okay.
With that being said, I think that, and maybe this is just my opinion, but I think that Aaron Rodgers probably also has the respect of the Packers to where they're not just going to ship him anywhere, even though they have the rights to, with him not having a no-trade clause. But don't you think that he has conversations with them, hey, I would appreciate to go here,
Yes.
there, or there,
Yes.
as opposed to...
Yes. I've always thought that. Yep. I think there's a mutual respect. T, do you agree?
Yeah, and that's why I think
Of
it's
course,
not a
he's Aaron
desperation
Rodgers.
move.
Of course they have a mutual. It's Aaron Rodgers. What are you talking about? And by the
Exactly.
way,
And
the
that's why
only
I
way
think
it's going
not
to
a
make sense,
desperation.
the only way it's going to make sense is if whoever they're talking to, in this case the Jets, and it seems like only the Jets, it's a lot you're going to take on, and potentially have to give up. Now, I think that lowers by the day. Literally, and the longer this thing goes on, the less the Jets are going to pay, especially considering how much they're going to have to take on from a salary cap and an actual cash situation with Aaron Rodgers. And so, you said this weeks ago. It's not going to be 3 first-rounders.
No.
It's not even.
I don't think it's going to be one.
It's not going to be a first-rounder. I mean, maybe a third-rounder, right? Escalating to something higher depending on performance and amount of games he plays and how far they go, et cetera. We've seen deals like that before.
Yep.
But, I mean, the Packers can't just trade him because it's not an easy trade. The more you look at this deal,
It's complex.
it is
no question.
really complex.
Yep.
There's a reason. Someone called yesterday and said, well, why didn't the Jets just sign them or get this done when they were out there? I was like, yeah, they may have expressed mutual affection for one another, but the Packers are still in the conversation here. You still got to work it out with the Packers. I think that's the hardest part for this deal.
I do agree with that, and I think that's exactly where they are. I don't believe at this point, I definitely don't believe that Aaron Rodgers right now is sitting there with a cup of coffee or tea laced with the Lord knows what, contemplating, all right, so they said this a couple of days ago. I believe that he wants to come here. I believe that the Packers and the Jets are deep into talks, and I believe that this thing could break during our show. I think this thing could break during the weekend for sure as we get ready for free agency. It's got to break very soon. At the very least, a couple of days here. There's a definitive timeline attached to this, but it is not easy. There's a lot of numbers, a lot of I's, a lot of T's that you got to cross. Like, I think he's coming here. I believe that more than ever, but it's going to take a little while to bake this in. It ain't easy, but I think he's coming, and I believe he wants it, and I believe he's going to be absolutely phenomenal when he gets here. 877-337-6666. All right, Tiki and Tierney on the Fan. By the way, if you missed the Knicks last night, not good news with Jalen Brunson. Oh, my God. We'll get to that a little later. And speaking of injuries, the Yankees are quietly getting absolutely crushed.
And they haven't even gotten to opening day yet, dude.
Crushed with injuries. We'll get to that as well. Tiki and Tierney on the Fan.